How's it going, folks? Welcome along to the channel. So the day is over. We finally have a Celtic football manager. ANGE Postecoglou has been announced as the Celtic manager. Statement came from the Celtic website this morning. Celtic Football Club is delighted to announce that it has appointed ANGE Postecoglou to the position of football manager. ANGE joined Celtic from Yokohama F Marinos, where he has delivered the J-League title. Previously, he has won the Premiership and Championship titles in Australia's A-League. A modern, progressive coach with exciting, attacking football as his philosophy, Ange has received a lot of prestigious coaching accolades, including being named Australia's PFA Manager of the Decade in 2015. Ange has successfully achieved recognition and endorsement in relation to his pro license issued by Football Australia. He begins work immediately and will be arriving in Glasgow as soon as protocols allow. So that basically says that he is going to be starting his job regardless of whether he's in the country or not. And I presume that means when it comes to the likes of signings and what he wants to do and his coaching staff as well, because all of that is still up in the air. We don't know who his coaching staff are going to be. We think it's going to be John Kennedy and Strachan, unfortunately. The statement then goes on and has a few statements from Ange himself. He says that he is delighted to take up one of the biggest jobs in world football, and he has signed a 12-month rolling contract, which is very important when it comes to this, especially when it comes to if it does not work out. That 12-month rolling contract is going to be vital to get rid of him if it doesn't work out. I'm not going into this negatively. I'm just saying that that will be very important if it does not go the way that we hope it does. He also says that the opportunity to be given is one of the greatest honors in football, and the responsibility to lead a magnificent club into the future is one that I will cherish dearly. We've already begun work in our plans for adding to the squad. We aim to bring quality players into Celtic to enhance the existing core of great talent. And then this bit is actually kind of funny from Peter Lowell. He says, Ange is a manager that we've known about for a number of years and someone who has been prominent in our thoughts for some time. Well, he was prominent in their thoughts until up until the point where Eddie Howe was not going to be the Celtic manager. So it is positive news. 105 days, I think. I need to check the North Curve Twitter account to see how many days it is, but 105, 106 days roughly since Celtic have had a manager. So Ange Postecoglou, we kind of knew that this was coming anyway. So it's just nice to finally get it over the line and finally have a man in charge and finally have someone who we know the decisions might at least be going through before the decisions are made. I know there's been a couple of decisions already made without him, so it's very positive news. There are a couple of things that I do want to touch on in this video, but do let me know your thoughts on the appointment below. Do you think he's going to be a success? Do you think he's going to be a failure? What's his first thing that he has to do? What signings would you like to see him make? Do you know much about him? Have you read about him? Have you watched his teams? I'm not going to sit here and pretend that up in Donegal, I've been sitting watching the J-League for the last 5 years and I know exactly who this guy is. I've read about him. I've watched his games. I've watched interviews with him. He does seem like a very impressive character. That doesn't mean he's getting a free ride. I do think that he's going to be under more pressure than a lot of managers would be at this point in time, but I am going to get behind him and I do hope that he is a success. There is a video on the Celtic website as well of Ange talking to Celtic TV about the appointment. He does seem like a really nice guy. He seems like he has his thoughts well tuned to what he wants to achieve. He seems grounded. He knows what he wants. He knows what he has to do to get there, and he seems that he's ready to come and work. Can he make the step up to from the J-League, from the Australian League to Celtic and to Glasgow? That is the biggest question of it, really. Can this guy come into the melting pot that is Glasgow, come into Celtic, come into the mess that he has inherited and turn it around? That is the biggest question that any Celtic manager has faced since Martin O'Neill, I would imagine. And Martin O'Neill at that point in time was a very strong character. He was a very strong coach. He was well known at this point. So I think it's a different situation in that point, but I think the job is as big as Martin O'Neill. And Martin O'Neill did it relatively quickly. So there's no reason to say that Ange can't come in and do that. The issue is, does he have the board's backing? Are the board going to give him what he needs? Are the board going to give him the facilities that he needs? Are the board going to give him the players that he needs? First off, there is the clear out we have to talk about, because Scott Brown, again, awkward enough seeing him in an Aberdeen shirt yesterday, but that is confirmed. He's gone to Aberdeen. He's not going to be there. The captain's not going to be there. Christopher Ayer, multiple interviews during his international camp again, saying that he wants to leave the club. And I actually respect him for coming out and saying it, explaining to the fans why he wants to leave the club. So he's likely going to go if Celtic can cash in on him. Leicester are, they're pushing their pursuit of Odsonne Edouard. Probably not going to be able to hold on to him either. So that's the three key core of Celtic's team right there leaving the club. Add into the fact that, there's players there that just are dead weight at this point in time, and they don't have a right back. They don't really have a good left back. If Ayer goes, they don't really have a good centre back. In midfield, you need to get McGregor going again. You need to get Turnbull performing to the levels that he was last year. You need to get Ryan Christie going again. He spoke about Tom Rogic in his interview. I know it was just because he's Australian, but he said he's been following his career. So if he can get him going, if he can get Tom Rogic playing to the level that Tom Rogic can play at, then Tom Rogic is an asset well worth holding on to. And then going forward, can he get the forwards fit? That's the biggest question. We only really have one forward now. So can he get him fit is a better question. Lee Griffiths is probably gone, which is good news for Celtic in terms of the deadwood clear out. But you're looking at a core squad of about maybe 6 players that you can name that are going to be starting in the team next year. So he has a massive transfer window to work with here. It's going to be difficult. Brexit is going to prove a little bit of a tricky situation that he's never had to handle. And then the Euros as well is going to prove really tricky if you want to get players who are playing at an international standard. So that's the squad. In terms of I know I kind of danced around the question about whether he can make the step up from the J League to Celtic. Look, there's one thing about being snobby about other leagues that does kind of get me a little bit, because that's one of the things that Celtic fans get really upset by when English fans talk about Scottish football and talk about the standard of football that Celtic play on a weekly basis. So it would be weird for me to be critical of the J League and of the A League, especially for the fact that I just haven't watched it at all. So I don't really know what level it is, but I know it's a level below the Scottish League. The level of football doesn't really worry me all that much. I think that if you're a good enough coach, and listen, he's managed at a World Cup, you don't get to that level. A World Cup is a step beyond club football, regardless of who you're managing, regardless of whether it's Laos or whether it's Australia or whether it's Scotland. If you're managing Australia and you get to a World Cup, and he did qualify for the second World Cup as well, but he stepped away before it happened. If you get to that level, you're good enough to do that, then you're a good coach, regardless of who you are, regardless of who you're managing. So I don't think the coaching level, the level of coaching that he is going to bring to the club is going to be any lower. And it can't be much lower than Neil Lennon's, let's be honest. I don't think it'll be any lower than that. I think it's mentality-wise. Can he handle the melting pot that is Glasgow? And Stephen Gerrard spoke about this when he took over when he took over Rangers for the first time. The first year in charge is the most difficult year you're ever going to experience. Martin O'Neill spoke about it as well. Gordon Strachan spoke about it. Brendan Rodgers did a fantastic interview about it. Glasgow is a different city than any other city to work in as a football manager, because number one, it is a football obsessed city. It is absolutely obsessed with football. Football is number one in Glasgow. Secondly, usually when you get those football towns, it's one team. It's Newcastle or it's Liverpool, these big football clubs that you think about that have big followings, and they're one club cities. Leeds United is another one. You don't usually have two that are as big as each other. So that's the question that I would ask of Ange Postecoglou. Can he handle the pressure? Can he handle the non-stop press? Can he handle the non-stop how quickly the tide can turn at Celtic? You lose one game and suddenly your job's on the line. That's the question that you ask about Ange Postecoglou. Can he handle that pressure? He seems like a strong enough character that he can do it. And I do think that he will be able to handle the pressure. Final question. Do I think he's going to be successful? I think the job is so big now that the pressure is going to be so high that any small mistakes that you notice will be magnified 100%. I think it's not a situation that I would like to come into as a coach, and I don't envy him at all, because he might be the catalyst for Celtic's change, but he might not actually see Celtic's success, if you get what I mean. I think he could be the guy who starts to turn the tide, who starts to put a structure in place at Celtic that spearheads success in a couple of years' time. And I know I've spoken about how quickly the tide can turn. The Celtic ship is going in a bad direction. And we've spoken about this so many times on the Huddle Breakdown and on this channel throughout the year, that, you know, the board level, at board level, the club is a mess. So even if Celtic win the league, is that a success if the board's the same? The players are still, you know, they're coming in and we're keeping them for that extra year, and then we're not getting the market value that we need for them to build again and go again and get another player in and then get him in and sell him for up more money. We're not doing that in a cohesive manner. We're not doing that in a successful manner. The entire structure of Celtic is not working the way it should be. So it depends what you regard as success. Was the last 9 years success for Celtic? From a domestic standpoint, it was. But from a club standpoint, they lost the track of the ball. They took their eye off the ball, and that's how we ended up in this situation. So do you want Ange to come in and be immediately successful, to have Celtic playing amazing football, for players to improve dramatically, to win the league, get back into the Champions League, and then 2 years down the line, he leaves and Celtic are in the exact same spot as they are now? Or would you rather him come in, take his time, build the structure of the club from the ground zero, and have it functioning within 3 years? Maybe not have a trophy by then. Are you going to give him the patience to allow him to build that? Are Celtic fans going to be patient enough to allow a lack of success if it means long-term stability of the club? Because the way that the club is going at the minute, it's just going to keep going back and back and back and back if we keep building for domestic success. I've spoken about this. I've mentioned it multiple times on this show and on the Huddle Breakdown. Celtic need to build for Europe. If you build for Europe, you will be good enough domestically. If Celtic build the club and have it functioning, and I hate using Brentford as the example, because Brentford are just they're just the current team that are doing it quite well. They need to start building like that. They need to start bringing in players and selling them on straight away. Odsonne Edouard, we all love Odsonne Edouard. We all know he's a brilliant player. Celtic would have got probably about 5 million more for Odsonne Edouard if they sold him last year. Same with Chris Ryer. His market value was way higher last year than it is this year. And you can't foresee these bad seasons, but you have to anticipate them. You have to anticipate that things may not go the way that you want, so you might as well cash in now. So look at Brentford, for example. They were pushing for the Premier League. They knew that they needed their best players to get into the Premier League. But what did they do? They sold them. They sold Ollie Watkins. They're now probably going to sell a couple of players going into the Premier League. They sold Ben Rama. They sell the players at their height of value so that they can bring in the likes of Ivan Toney, so they can bring in the replacements for the players that they're selling. Celtic have not been doing that. Jeremy Frimpong is another example. Celtic sold him without any replacement. They brought in John Joe Kenny on a loan. They didn't have a replacement in place. They need to start thinking long-term. So that is the difficulty that Ange Postecoglou faces. He doesn't face the immediacy of needing success at Celtic, for me anyway. People might disagree with me for that. I don't care if Ange comes in and Celtic win the league next year. But what I do care about is if Ange Postecoglou comes in and puts a structure in place, and I know that Celtic are going in the right direction, if they're playing good football, if I see players improving, if I see the fact that they're clearly being coached as a club and the transfers make sense, that's what I want Ange Postecoglou to come in and do. And hopefully he'll be able to make a success of Celtic Football Club in the next couple of years, because I don't think it's a quick fix. I don't think that if we go and win the league, that it's a success. It's not a success unless it is built for the long term, unless it's built to be sustainable for the next couple of years, and unless you transfer that success from the domestic league into Europe, because that's where Celtic are judged. Celtic aren't judged by the 9 titles. Nobody outside of Scotland would have cared if Celtic won 10 in a row. Nobody. But people care when Celtic go and beat Man City in the Champions League or go and beat Barcelona in the Champions League. That's when people start to pay attention to Celtic. So that's where I want to see Celtic improve under ANGE POSTECOGLOU. Whether or not he will be successful, could he be another Pedro? That's what's being leveled at him already. I don't know what it's going to be. I really sincerely hope that it's better than last season, because it can't get any worse. I keep saying it can't get any worse, and then it gets worse. So I really hope that ANGE POSTECOGLOU comes in. It's a breath of fresh air. Hopefully he'll have a couple of his own people there, and we will be able to build for the future. What do you think of ANGE POSTECOGLOU? Do let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's one of many videos that I will be talking about ANGE POSTECOGLOU over the course of the season. We are back. We have a manager after 105 days. Celtic have a manager. Thank God for that, because I can't think about talking about the lack of a manager at Celtic Football Club over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully that will be the start of it. Hopefully we'll have some transfer news, and I will be covering all that transfer news in this channel. So subscribe to the channel, hit the button just below there, subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notified every time a video goes live. Thanks very much for watching, and do let me know again in the comments below, because I will get back to you after I'm done with this video. Thanks for watching.